Black Caucus. In fact, and that was an honor for me. And I had the opportunity to talk about some of the phrases and things that Shirley had said. You know, Shirley was unique in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I remember when we asked her, what would you like, for your legacy to be? What would you like for, us to say, Shirley? And she paused for a moment and she says, I would like for you to tell them that I had guts.
And she did. She did. And the portrait that's hanging,
Yeah.
The artist, phenomenal artist, it captured that gutsy side of Shirley Chisholm. But she was also a compassionate and passionate woman, too. I mean,
Yeah.
she was a total human being. She loved to dance. She wore the most beautiful clothes. She actually told me, because I love my jeans and T-shirts, and when I first ran for public office in the early 90s, she came out to help me when I was running for the Assembly. She says, Barbara, I think I'm going to send you some of my clothes, some that I haven't even worn. I said, wait a minute, you're size 2 or 3, and then I was a 10. And she really wanted, but what she was saying to me is, you better get your act together.
Get out of those jeans.
Get out of those jeans. You're running for public office, And she called me, and I took her up to the wine country, and we shared a lot of personal moments about life in general, and she knew some of my personal struggles that I was having, and she really helped me work through a lot of that.
What do you think she would say today if she was here, Nancy Pelosi, a woman who is the Speaker of the House of Representatives? What do you think that Shirley would say in a moment like this?
You know what she would say? I told you so. See, if you just work hard and if you stick to your principles and if you stick to your guns, ultimately you will be the Speaker, Madam Speaker. I don't think she'd be that shocked, really. And I don't think she'd be that shocked that there's a President Barack Obama in the presidency, because she was very clear on what it took to get to where we need to go. And I'm sure she would say, okay, Speaker Pelosi, you've done everything that needs to be done, so why not? You just have to put the votes together, and Shirley Chisholm knew how to put the votes together. She knew how to count, and she was very practical in politics, and so I don't think she'd be that. I think she'd be very happy and delighted, and she would, I think, again, she'd say, see, I told you so. If you just stick with your guns, you can do it. Yes, we can, is what she'd say.
Yeah, but if she was actually able to pull together a coalition, I mean, way back in the days, I mean, you figure in 1968, when she ran, and of course, the party leadership, they were not with Shirley, and they felt that a woman really had no place, in the United States House of Representatives, and therefore, let's run this man. And they had a good candidate. I mean, this guy was an outstanding candidate who had all the district leaders and everybody supporting him, and of course, a lot of folks thought it was a foregone conclusion that he was just going to be the next member of the United States Congress.
Yeah.
And Shirley, in spite of that, was able to put together a coalition. And I recall those women with those big hats. I mean, they came and said, Shirley is the candidate, and we're going to elect Shirley. And Shirley put it together. And she came here and made us proud. But let me just go back to a couple of things, what I wanted to talk about now. With the stimulus package, what do you expect to happen with this? I mean, just thinking, as I look back at Shirley and knowing in terms of, what she'd be saying today, with these governors saying, I don't want the money, I don't want, and I just can imagine, what she'd be saying when people are hurting.
Yeah, well, Shirley would, she'd take on the governors in a big way. She would not bite her tongue. That's the first thing. And she would say, if you don't want it, we do. And just as we did in this package, we figured out a way where if they don't want the money, our communities will still benefit from that money by the formulas that we develop. But let me see how key it's going to be in terms of your chairmanship of the Oversight and Government Oversight and Reform Committee, because your constituents need to know, Congressman Towns, that you're the man who's going to make sure that this money gets out into the community and create the jobs that the president is insisting that it create. And I just really applaud you for taking your committee on the road to make sure that we do the right thing in our local communities. And I think Shirley Chisholm would want you to do exactly what you're doing. Hold these folks accountable, hold local, state, school districts accountable for the money, the tax dollars that we're sending, because after all, this is about creating jobs and helping turn the country around and helping dig people out of the hole, which this foreclosure crisis and the Bush administration's foreign and domestic policies have created.
When I heard the comment being made by Jim Clyburn, who's our whip from South Carolina, and who's the majority whip, said we need to make certain that the governors take this money, and then he says, if the governors won't take it, we need to set up a system where the state legislature can then determine in terms of where this money will go, but it should not leave the state. I'm saying to myself, what is he talking about? I mean, every governor is going to want to get these resources to help their constituents. I mean, these are states that have a deficit, and you know what? Jim was right. Governors
Absolutely
have refused the money.
And thank goodness our whip and our entire Democratic caucus supported the provision of the bill, which we insisted on, the Black caucus especially, that if the governors did not want that money within, I think it's 45 days, a joint resolution by the House and the Senate should be passed to say what they're going to do with the money. And so also we had a formula where initially the governors wanted 80% of that money. We said, oh, no, no, no. We wanted a 50-50 split, but I believe we came out with like a 65, maybe 30 split,
right,
which is a lot better.
Yeah.
A lot better. And then on the school modernization money, again, some wanted it, some governors wanted it, some didn't. But what we ended up doing, and the Senate just about zeroed it out, but we got it put back in, I think, to the tune of maybe 10 or $11 billion. But what we did, and what's important, is we developed the formula for the school modernization funds based on a Title I and IDEA formula where we can get it directly to the school districts, and the governors don't get a chance to play around too much, with that money. And so we did, and I'm glad we're talking about this, because people around the country need to know that while we passed this economic recovery package, I thought it should have been $1 trillion, but it was, it was a good first start. But we created some formulas in there to make sure that there's some accountability and to make sure that the funds get to the local communities as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do not think that it is enough, but it's a step in the right direction. And when you look at the amount of people that are unemployed, when you look at the fact that people are losing their homes, then I think really any kind of assistance you can give them would be helpful.
Sure, and we actually increased the food stamp. The Republicans didn't want to do this. We increased food stamp allocation to $20 billion. And they say, what is food stamp? What does that have to do with economic recovery? Well, come on, people have to eat, first of all. Grocery stores are going under. People need to be able to purchase food. There's a heck of a lot of concern for people in going through this trauma at this moment in our history, and we have to have a safety net for people. We have to have health care, we have to have food stamps, and we have to have the basic minimums just so people, unemployment compensation, we extended that. Those safety net programs have to be in place as we create these jobs so that people don't fall through the cracks.
What do we say, though, to now